like, this is the perfect time for you all to brainstorm about where you are. When we dive in, we will dive in about 3 days later, giving you all the opportunity to, as a group of individuals, a group of kindred who were there and dispersed, because of course it's getting closer to dawn than to sunset, to have accomplished whatever it is that you set your hearts to. And then I will give you guys an idea where we're starting, and have you all fill in the space of where we last left with the coterie, through and against their efforts, once more being the mythologized version of the shelter. Because at the end of the day, a lot of what the rumors, gossip, and gist of the believed ideas to what the shelter are, they've been ultimate, depending on who you ask, either Robin Hood or, unfortunately, the Jackal, the mythologized version of the Jackal, taking out political leaders left and right and still getting away with it. They are the coterie that upturned the apple cart and got away with it. They've either directly been linked to or directly stated as having assassinated several members of the Primogen, several high-ranking members of the kindred social structure, several high-ranking members of the kindred community, and gotten away with it. They are the only coterie known to have actually escaped and outlasted a blood hunt. They are the coterie responsible for the ending of the Bahari and the Baham in the city of Chicago during that small little few months of war that wiped the Bahari off the face of existence as far as all Chicago is concerned. Their myth and their rumor and their legends is a thing of mad rabbit kindred who have managed to be smart enough, wily enough, and tough enough to take out actual Primogen. Word has spread. And once again, the truth behind that, as varied and layered as that actually is, on baser terms and simple for color, they are yet once again living up to their myth. They're once again living up to their legend. They are once again responsible for the removal of a political leader. And if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'll be right back.
It gives us perfect time to figure out what we were doing for these past 3 days. Let's see.
Something like that. Hi, how we doing?
Hi. I saw you on the Miro fucking around. I knew you'd been sitting there.
Oh, no. That was just drawing attention to one particular portion of the mural. Otherwise, I was tossing off a...
Whoa. We're being recorded, Nobu.
Yes. Luckily, I'm not an Aussie or a New Zealander. I wasn't tossing off myself, if that's what you're trying to go after. But I was managing some other aspect of play that's not specifically related to us here. This vacation away from reality. It was a non-shelter based moment. Thank you all for the lovely tail end of information that I obtained, which is you all working towards a goal. You all made up planning out your nights, which is predominantly the goal of me stepping away to have a quick toke of poison, was for you all to, outside of the characters themselves, as the animating souls for Aaron, Miriam, and Hestia, to align what it is that they are seeking and hoping to accomplish with the objective forward planning. I know it goes without saying, but so that it is in fact very, very clear. I appreciate your talents. I appreciate your efforts. I love your energies when they're outpouring in the act of playing this hobby, this game, this world that we have the opportunity of stepping sideways into. And without a shadow of a doubt, just so that we are clear, this is in fact Soup City Sins, Sheltered or Saved. Tonight's episode, while not the fantabulously golden episode, the second episode of the second season of Sheltered or Saved, it is still a fairly special episode, as they all are, because you all are all here. Tonight's episode is entitled Mors Tyrannis, or, for those of us Latin challenged, Death to Tyrants. The tyrannical have always been envisioned as the enemy of the common good, because they are uncommon and they are only concerned about their good. If you are part of their cults of personality, the world is your oyster, even if you are in fact allergic to shellfish. If you are part of their circle of influence, there's very little that will not be done for you from them. If you are, however, on the outside of that circle, or you influence them negatively, even if it's just a momentary thing, you happen to have a better business card, you happen to have a better car, you happen to have a better wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, or all of the above. If there's anything that causes them to feel even the most niggling bit of jealousy, fear, doubt in your adoration and adulation towards them, then the world that was formerly your heaven becomes a hell. Tyrants tend to get shit done because they are callous enough to those outside of their circles, their cults, that it is a game to them. They are psychopathically sociopathic in achieving their goals. There's very little that one can do to deter a tyrant from at least temporarily achieving all that their hearts desire. It is in fact a very real and problematic thing. Because a tyrant isn't always vocal, isn't always vociferous, isn't even always the person you're most likely to see carrying out their goals. They're charismatic. They are the stuff of legends made flesh. Oftentimes, those who have been close enough to the tyrannical, oftentimes the people have been close enough to those psychopathically sociopathic individuals that can and do become tyrants, there is often they just had this energy about them. They just had this presence. Looking into their eyes was like staring into the infinite. She just asked and you just couldn't say no. He was so charming. It was the best night of my life. I remember having dinner with Mussolini, and it was, and on and on and on. You'll hear the power of their presence, the aura of being in the same room or having their attentions fall on you. Years long past their demise, years long past their fall from grace and power, you will still have the countless stories from those who had the opportunity of sharing a moment in their presence. On the surface, it's a huge question as to what does this have to do with the shelter? What does this have to do with the heroes of our heart? What does this have to do with this group and all of its many multifaceted iterations over the years? Before we dive in both feet, imagine, if you will, a small neighborhood bar. It's a storefront bar. The entire front of the establishment is floor to ceiling windows. In the windows, of course, are your old style neon sign. There's one from Latrobe, i.e. Rolling Rock. There's another from Goose Island. Then there's another neon from Revolution. And, Revolution very much uses Chicago iconography in every one of their particular flavors of what quantifies as beer. Much the same with Goose Island and their 312 and their green line and their blue line and their pink line. It's very much Midwestern Chicago focused breweries and beers in the windows, these neons. Behind the neons are the vertical slat styled blinds, so you can see some of the activity inside the bar. Now, as a storefront bar, as a neighborhood bar, it's relatively small. It'd probably tap out with a maximum occupancy of 85, 89, somewhere in there. Luckily, with it being a neighborhood bar, it doesn't really get tagged too much by the fire department for code violations in terms of occupation. How many occupants are inside? In fact, it proudly and happily goes over that occupancy nearly every weekend. Because as a neighborhood bar, it is a focal point for the adults and want to be adults in the area for partying. You don't gotta go downtown. You don't gotta go spend, $100 to get in and $75 for parking and $35 for every drink, let alone every round. It's a neighborhood bar, so you can get a round for $40 and including tip. And if you come often enough, which most people do, begin to know the bartenders. You've been there through 5 or 6 changes of bartending staff. The cocktailer, very much appealing to the old idea of a cocktail waitress. Unlike the other sports bars and modern blitzed and glammed night spots, there aren't servers. There's waitresses. To be perfectly honest, there's a singular cocktailer who moves from the front of the building to the back of the building. Luckily, while it is not a shotgun shack styled building, it is fairly galley styled. So on your far right of the wall when you walk in are 5 or 6 high top cocktail tables with the bar stools without the back and with the back, though those with the back are supposed to be at the bar. They get moved backwards and forwards as the night goes on. And people, oh, that's a comfortable chair. Let me get that one right there. And they'll move it to the cocktail tables. Past the cocktail tables are 2 well-used, well-played, not quite perfectly level pool tables. Behind the pool tables are the booth areas. They're not really actual booths. They're the leftover booths from the subway that closed down the block about 10 years ago. But luckily, the booth, the leather that's used to cover the seating, was the green that the bar has in most places. So it went almost perfectly. The tables that are sitting between the booths are actually handcrafted, reused, and repurposed because they're not actually tables. They're countertops that have been affixed to horses that cause people to bump their knees or stub their toes almost every time they go in and out of the booths. But the booths are the places where the older couples, the younger couples, where the couples of whoever happens to get there first can sneak into those tables and, well, play a little game of footsie or otherwise engage themselves with their hands between drinks. Past the little booth area is what amounts to their dance floor space. No one really uses it as a dance floor space. It's where most people go and stand and talk on their phone or take a picture with their back to the rest of the bar. Because despite all of the weekend activity, it is just bar. And past that little space, down a relatively long hallway, the first door on your right is a greasy little closet that operates and works as the kitchen for the bar. They don't do much in terms of actual cooking, but it's not your typical professional restaurant style kitchen. There is a fryer, but it's a home fryer to be perfectly honest, but there's 4 of them and they're connected and jury rigged so they operate as one, and there's a actual turn the dial timer in there instead of the lit up buttons that you can use to cook various things. The timer set. There's an actual 2-burner gas stove that is used to cook up most other things that don't go directly into the fryer. On the backside of that little closet kitchen space is where all the tickets come out from the bar. Because unfortunately, it is just a bar, so there's only one place to bring things up. And so mixed in with those electronically generated tickets are the handwritten tickets from the cocktailer. Directly opposite that little kitchen is a supply closet. That supply closet, you can find almost everything that you're expecting in the supply closet, including the hidden access to the stairs that lead down into the basement. Most people don't know that it's there, and that's just the way that the owner likes it. Publicly accessible and completely out of view. Behind that little space, on the left, there are 2 women's restrooms, and on the right, 1 men's restroom. The men's restroom, the water in the faucet doesn't work, and it's been using that same pull towel dispenser that is one singular cotton piece of fabric for the last year and a half. The green stripe down the middle is every color save actually green. Most people think that it's been washed and cleaned, but the truth of the matter is, every couple of days, the owner sneaks in here with a bottle of Febreze and refreshes the towel by soaking it completely and thoroughly. The owner's restroom isn't in any state better, save they actually, instead of just using Febreze, do use a little Lysol here and there. The Lysol bottle is open underneath both of the sinks, predominantly for the scent. People are fooled by the scent. If it smells clean, they will think that it is in fact clean. The truth of the matter is, the owner doesn't care whether it's clean or not, as long as people believe it is. People will fool and lie to themselves if you let them, which is a secret that Crook learned far in advance of his death. Always a petty individual, Crook, only got meaner as his life petered out, as his unlife began. He only got meaner, but he got smarter with how and where to be petty. He knew and knows that the true power in the kindred community doesn't lie with age. Age helps, but the true power in the kindred community is being present and invisible. To have eyes and ears in places you can't physically be. The true power in the kindred community comes from being able to forecast the future and guess the weather. That's the reason why he has contracts and connections in as many places as he possibly can. He has spoken sweet nothings into the direct ear. Damien. He has sat in on council meetings where Kevin Jackson has been busily plugging away on that stupid BlackBerry playing bricks, it looks like, or Tetris, or some other knockoff of some stupid game. He has managed to be one table over from the regent and primogenitor of the Tremere as he's talked with his segundas at a quaint little Hyde Park family-owned Greek restaurant. He has crawled through the sewers in pursuit of finally being able to see where Khalid, the primogenitor of the Nosferatu, actually goes to after those council meetings. He's watched as the professor has had his way with several kindred who would do anything to make sure that knowledge doesn't slip free. Because what is it like bartering your orifices for special dispensations? He has watched as Genghis has quietly amassed all of the power left by the former Baron of the Chicagoland area and become, in fact, in truth, the actual Baron of Chicago. He is one of the few who are aware of the negotiations had between Genghis and Prince Jackson. He's one of the few who understand that the Toreador are, as per usual, in the state of civil war between Annabelle and Corinne. He is one of the few Jackal understands that one of the most prominent, well-known venture of Chicago, Miss Naomi Stewart, is in fact Imogen of the Dalton Protectorate. He is traded on and with his sources of information until he has the very whiff of validity to everything he bothers whisper. Those in the know understand that. Those in the know act as if crooks place all of them spread across the city is in fact an Elysium, and it is nothing of the sort. They are all simply just corner bars, neighborhood local bars. They are always cheaper than all of their competitors because Crooks makes his money, his actual money, his actual resources through the exchange, trading of information. So we open on that bar with Crooks sitting like a spider in the center of his web. It's click-clacking away on a keyboard that is connected to a computer hundreds of miles from where he actually sits. A little small proxy screen, which is nothing more than a Samsung tablet sitting in front of him, connected and dialed into that computer, which is safely away from anyone who can affect it, or so he believes. The creak of the stairs screaming underneath the weight of the person stepping down. We find a short, collared, blonde woman dressed in a My Chemical Romance t-shirt. She comes down, hands in pocket. And instead of taking a seat at the nearby desk where Brooke is working, she stays halfway, ensconced in shadow on the stairs. Sitting down, knees poking through, she has striped stockings on beneath jean shorts that have seen better years, but is all the rage fashion these days because the wear and tear causes them to be mostly not there. She sits and waits and begins chewing bubble gum, blowing one bubble after the other, and then pop. And as Crook hurriedly tries to type out whatever it is that he's typing out, when he's nearly to the end of a sentence, there's another pop. A very loud chewing. He makes another line and pop. Finally, because the pops begin coming far more frequently than him reaching the end of the line, he stops. He shuts down his rig and he turns around. Look, I know what you're thinking, but I'll tell you everything. I've already told you everything I could. I already got your guy doing everything you asked me to. So when are you gonna tell me? Where's this great upheaval and danger coming from? When is your guy, the monster of the Midway, Captain O'Hare himself, Flyboy, going to make his move? I need to have my people ready to drop this information into the Prevention's ears. Oh, I never said Flyboy. I said someone connected with Flyboy. You're saying difference. If he makes his move, or they're friends of his, when he decides to make his move, they're going to make their move. No. Connected doesn't mean they're working together. Which one is it? Is it... I'm telling you the truth. I told you the truth. You're not listening. But that's unimportant. I need you to find Celia. What? Yeah, I need you to find Celia. Celia is the only one bitten by the bats who has not developed any diseases. We find her. Look, we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be working towards the betterment of the city. I never said that. Find Celia. And with that sitting there in front of us, that understanding that there are other individuals out there in the night making several moves at once and thinking they are ahead of the game, We open with the coterie gathered as per usual. Instead of in the morgue of the shelter, they are gathered at Asylum Elysium and Ivy on Lawrence. It's a little out of the way for them, but the space is safe, and the staff is attentive, and the decor is lovely. What's brought them here is the ability to converse in a space that is not immediately filled with the aura of death. This does not come without a cost. This does not come without careful consideration and acceptance of what they have been and what they might still yet be. As they've gathered 3 nights further on from ending the existence of the Malkavians' attempt to coalesce power into their clan's hands. Their clan having been led for the last 2.5, 3 years by Evan Klein, since someone or someones managed to assassinate and disappear Primogen Newberry. Evan, the former member of Baby Chorus. Evan, the only thing keeping Bronwyn, the originator of the circulatory system and now the Grand Sommelier of the Midwestern region, in some semblance of control. Evan, the only one who's managed to bring Andrea Harvey Stabelli to a semblance of home. Evan, the life's blood and lifeline to Lolly, a former member of the shelter. Or if the shelter was a motorcycle gang, she'd be a pledge. Evan. They assassinated Evan Klein. They have once more, ended the existence of one of the powerful, one of the Primogen, one of the pseudo-elders of the city. And just like all of the many myths surrounding them and circulating through their cipher, they have gotten away with it once more. So what have you guys been up to?
Well, I believe as discussed, we've spent some time cleaning up the refuse of our particular indiscretion, as well as getting in contact with Sephoa, and I'll leave the particulars as to what was spoken about there to Hastia. Hastia, what was the content of our conversation with Sephoa?
We were keeping it a G with them, basically, like, hey, so we wanted to talk to you about some other stuff, but in the course of the last night, we found out there's a plot against you, and we hopefully have squashed that plot against you. But since we did that, how about some favors? How about we work together? How about we scratched your back preemptively? How about you scratch ours? So basically trying to form an alliance and exchange of information between them and Sephoa. There probably would have been some awkwardness seeing Lucio again after all this time. But
well, here's the question. Who made the drive out to Forest Park, to the family video, Lion video, that is the hub of the Blood Czar's surprisingly large service area?
It would have been a group thing. We wanted to keep it as a group.
Yeah, for that specific night's events, we were together.
So you all were together when driving out and moving out of the boundary of Chicago into the Forest Park area. Now, the reason why that is even remotely relevant means that none of you all were at the shelter.
Oh no.
means none of you all were inside the boundaries, the safe confines of Chicago. Because despite what everyone from Big Oaks and Norridge and Ridgemore and Irving Woods and all of the other bountifully named places that connect and abut Chicago, they are not, in fact, Chicago. Riverside is not Chicago. Brookfield, McCook, Bedford Park are not Chicago. Bridgeview, even though it is literally just the other side of Harlem, is not Chicago. And politically, nothing south of 79th Street is Chicago. There are certain protections you all, as a unit, as a team, as a coterie, as a found dysfunctional family, have inside Chicago. Those protections disappear the moment you leave. So it is always a risky venture, escaping the boundaries of Chicago. And while Forest Park, much like many other outlying suburbs, is just over Harlem or is just over there, but Forest Park, well, Forest Park is unlike most of the contiguous suburbs around the city. Most of the contiguous suburbs will eventually be absorbed into Chicago proper. Most contiguous suburbs will eventually, as the expansion of Chicago continues, even though quietly now, will be absorbed. Forest Park will not be absorbed. Forest Park is its own divisible entity. Proudly so. Virulently so. And even as Forest Park is just as mad, just as idiotically insane as Oak Park, it refuses to be accepted as anything except for itself. Forest Park is the home of many Broadway talents, many movie stars, many football players and baseball players. And even though there's nothing official about it, Forest Park is in fact a full realm and domain of the Blood Czar. The entirety of it. So the moment that you all cross the Harlem and Lake Street line, the moment you all cross and watch as the street signs don't change from the Chicago green, but the way that they're laid out does. The moment you see that bus stop there on your left and the Walgreens there in the parking lot as you make your way west along Lake Street, there are eyes on you that shouldn't be. There are ears on you that shouldn't be. Your reputation and your vehicle, which doesn't make sense because no one should know your vehicle. None of the many persons that you've all dealt with before have ever kept track of your vehicles, save the shelter vans. Yet, as you all cross Lake Street, you can feel the air change. You're nowhere near the Des Plaines River, but it very much feels as if you are in a border town with some raging wild water, barely containing all of the frontier, open, free range. You feel as if the air has gotten moister, as if there's more humidity. You feel as if there are greater, larger, wide open spaces. This, of course, being an illusion. But the houses, buildings are short, a little squatter in Forest Park. The lawns a little longer. The streets a little smaller. The neighborhoods a little more closely defined. And maybe it's just paranoia from what you've all recently done, but there is a distinctively different view. to the world the moment you cross into Forest Park. Luckily, you all have, in various moments, directly and indirectly, been here before. So you know where you're going. So as you make it all the way over to Lathrop and make that left-hand turn down and head past Washington, past the submarine tender, and past the Italian restaurant that's there on Madison. You make that quick left again to make that right onto display, to take that down past the public library to then Beard and make that right until you continue heading west till you reach the video store. Now, by video store, unlike most non-existent presently video stores, there's still a family video, a line-in video, all in one. They even have some of the old Hollywood video boxes or Blockbuster boxes still in their stock. But not just the home rentals for the VHS and DVD and even the CD and Laserdisc videos and movies. This particular video store is outlaid more along the lines of a theater. There's huge colonnades out front, bright neon lights. It is huge. It takes up almost the entirety of that corner of the block. There are its own crosswalk with lighted signals for people to move left and right across the street to get to it. There's parking connected to the facility, so you can walk from the parking lot into the building that exits right directly in front of the movie theater, so you don't have to get as wet as you would. And yet, behind the theater, behind all the glitz and glam and the niche of it, the individuals standing around and milling around and restocking shelves, they're wearing 2- and 3-piece tuxedos. They have bright red ties and they're dressed in, well, actual tuxedos. Men, women, boys, girls, young adults. The ticket persons who are collecting the tickets to go and selling the tickets and selling the concessions, even they are dressed in tuxedo shirts and ties and bows and blah, blah, blah. It's a full experience. It's like stepping back in time to the late 20s, early 30s, where getting dressed to go to the movies was an event. No one showed up in Crocs and dress socks and cargo shorts and t-shirts 1 or 2 sizes too small. No one showed up in yesterday's funk and today's stink. Everyone dressed and spruced themselves up, combed their hair, put on their Sunday's best, and made an event of it. That's what being here is like. It's stepping back in time where the act of going out was worth the effort of making sure you put your absolute best foot forward.
Well, hot damn. And thank you for bringing up my Crocs-related trauma. Thank you. I needed that. I needed that tonight. So suffice to say, we look, at least I look, severely underdressed for this occasion. Just kind of, well, you two have got more, I suppose, experience with this.
Aaron would definitely notice that Hess is a little on edge tonight.
What's that about?
Personal issues, probably.
Anything to worry about?
Not so much.
Are they
At
having
least
this
me.
conversation amongst themselves, or is she parted?
I
Oh,
figured we were just walking.
Or maybe the aftermath. It depends.
The aftermath of
You ever have that one person that you felt like you would give your entire existence for, and then they aren't there anymore, they're just not, and then you go to your favorite diner to get like a cup of hot cocoa or some shit, and it's been a great day so far, nothing goes wrong, beautiful weather, nice and warm, and you sit at your favorite fucking booth, and who walks in the fucking door? On
This is
somebody
about
else's
Lucio,
arm.
isn't it?
Yes, because I recognize the fact that we have to do this, but I'm almost sure that he's going to be here somewhere tonight.
Yeah, well. I'm not much for emotions and helping people out with them. Good luck with that. I guess treat him like he's a different person.
Miriam was just going to arch an eyebrow at that.
What?
Oddly enough, I think that, not that that would work, but that is probably my best bet.
It always worked for me whenever I figured out that one of the squad was actually just a different agency in disguise. Real awkward day at the office.
Speaking of awkward day at the office, there's nothing so refreshing or as insulting as being perceived and understood for who you are by someone who you don't know. It feels invasive, and as often as it has happened to Hestia and Miriam over the last few years, it doesn't stop being problematic. Because you all walk in and taking in the decor and the milling throngs of people coming for the show, coming for the throwback of being able to pick up a video for a hot Friday night. The fact that the usher, wearing a blue bow tie, a paisleyed surcoat, and a brocaded dark blue that it seems black tuxedo jacket, moves over, her hair pulled back into an elaborate bun which droops and sags into a fairly long ponytail at the crest of her neck and just above her jacket. Excuse me, ma'am, and security. Would you all step this way with me, please? I believe that your ticket is already purchased.
Kinda just gestures for Hestia. After you.
You sighs and follow.
Miriam walks beside Hestia.
We don't normally have the opportunity of having personages such as yourself arrive at the theater. Is there some message you'd like me to deliver for you?
That management might want to speak to us personally in this case.
Of course. Completely understood, and I believe well in hand. I must ask, and I do apologize about not having another way to ask this outside of perhaps invading your personal space with an accidental stumbling step, but would you at present be armed with anything more technological than a crossbow? If you are, I will have to ask that you allow us to check your outside refreshments.
Aaron just kind of pats the underpant holster to give her an indication.
Oh, I see. Very well, I completely understand. If you'll be so kind as to step into the laboratory there to your right, and the gentleman inside will be able to check your accoutrement.
Catch up with you guys in a minute then. Hill.
Very well
Kinda,
not.
like, cracked up at Hester. She mouthed the word crossbow. Granted, she had been here before, but there was just like it again. That what?
He'll step into the, I imagine, far more fancy than I, the individual outside of this game, has ever really been into bathroom.
Yes and no. The best way to describe it is extreme chic masked by shabby. The tile floor is your standard 1 inch by 1 inch off-white eggshell bathroom tiles. Slick as all get out under the wrong conditions. Luckily, they have the air and the heat on year round to keep the temperatures properly from allowing the floor to get so dangerous. There's a huge trough, and by huge it is just long, the backsplash of which is concreted into a chest height wall separating both sides of the trough. But you looking down into the trough realize that it is just one very oblong and extremely long bathtub filled with ice. The faucets are beat bronze with an Art Deco flair. There's fillets and swirls and all sorts of small little bits to draw the eye, but it's just a faucet. And unlike the usual touchless hand dryer or towel, there's a gentleman sitting on a stool in a tuxedo. On the counter next to him, combs, deodorant, perfume, gum, and various little small bits to refreshen oneself. And then you enter. It's completely empty, just him and you. Even though, as you all were entering, you did see that there were quite a few theaters letting out. Clearly, because there was a throng of people leaving, a throng of people coming. The concession lines were long enough and busy enough to let you know that this is, in fact, a Friday night, and they're well staffed for it. Yet, this particular bathroom is you and the attendant.
I'll approach and just, hey, I'm here to. He thinks for a moment, not really coming up with anything more subtle than it, just say, checking a coat.
Oh, I see. Well, you'll tip right there. I know not many people carry cash, but we do accept tap or chip.
Wait, they fixed you guys up with a digital processor in the bathroom?
Yes,
That is neat. He says as he filters out a 5 from his wallet. I don't tend to like digital payment systems myself.
And he bothers to actually hold it up to the light. And he's checking the 5. Thank you kindly. Would you... And he points to the basket underneath the sink counter.
Just with the smooth transition, we'll pull the holster up and out from underneath where it's hidden underneath my pant leg. Remove, like, double check over his shoulder that there's no one in. Remove the revolver. Pop the chamber out. Drop the 5 rounds into his hand and click it back in place and set it inside the basket.
Do you intend on anyone else besides yourself retrieving your item?
No. That's a, well, rather familiar with it, and I would like to keep it in my hands.
Completely understandable. It's the reason why I enjoy my job. I get to do the same thing as I would do normally at home. The few times I get to see it. I always said, if you do what you love, you're still doing something for pay.
True enough. Don't think there's any work in the world that you can forget as work. Well, I know they said anything above a crossbow, but he opens his jacket to show the strap that's kind of tucked in there to look like it's part of the jacket. This won't be too much of an issue, will it?
It shouldn't. If it is, I wish you the best of luck.
Alright. He says, kind of giving a wave, pocketing the 5 rounds into his jacket pocket, and walking out.
The moment you all exit, the moment he exits and catches up to you all, you are led into a palace to the past. It's completely Art Deco from the carpet to the ceiling tiles. It is a multifaceted, multi-tiered viewing theater. Down the row, through the pathways forward, there is still a choral area where the band and orchestra would set up to play a accompaniment to whatever was happening on the stage. Save there's nothing happening on the stage because it is a movie screen. It is a 2.5 story tall movie screen from the days of yore when you would fill this place to the rafters and people will watch the news, their favorite Saturday morning cartoons, a few shorts, a few reels, and then 1 or 2 movies, and that would be all that happened. This was where you heard and saw the news of the world. Sometimes with actual accompaniment from a live band, and sometimes just the speakers hidden from balcony to balcony, projected out into the space so that you felt as if you were being bombarded by that huge cannon that was sending shells across vast distances, breaking bunkers, where you felt as if you were there with Audie Murphy as he stormed those goddamn ratsies. It is 1943, the moment you all step in. Then you have to do a double check at your own clothes, make sure that nothing's faded to black and white. But as the usher leads you all through, instead of moving up into the balcony, you're led down to the 10th row from the screen, the prime viewing space, just behind where the in-house orchestra was set up in their pit. where you can see the full screen as if it was solely designed for you. There is something silently playing on the screen. That's Sephora, her purple-haired elegance, sitting in the center of the row in the prime seat to see the entirety of the screen as some glasses-wearing, wild-haired man has a building fall around him and walk away unscathed. And the look on her face, to put it another way, put it the only way that it is a look of reverence, a look you've seen on churchgoers and cultists who believe in the message of their cult, and you've seen on voters who stare at their particular candidate. You've seen on the face of poets who've been in the midst of being fully touched by their muse. And more personally for Hestia, you've seen on Miriam's face as she sketched a dancer who seemed to twirl on the page, or a heart that wouldn't stop beating, or when she attacked you, when in the full grip of whatever else that was inside her. Same look that you swore, and you won't tell anybody this part, but you are so very thankful that that look was not what was on Theo's face. You are so very thankful that whatever was inside him did not look at you with the same adoration and adulation that was on Miriam's face. And the usher motions you all towards your seats.
Give a nod of thanks, and I guess follow the gestured instructions. Kind of just keeping an eye out, I guess, while I leave Hestia to do most of the talking for this instance, unless required. I don't personally know Sefo. I don't really personally know Lucio, for that matter, but Aaron's just kind of got it rattling around his head that if Hestia can't really comfortably talk to these people, then he'll step in. You just keep an ear out for if she starts stumbling, and an eye out for if anything goes wrong in the background.
Yeah, it's starting already. As even out of character. Which one's closer to the empty seat? Like, is it Saboa sitting empty seat, or the other way around?
There is Sephora. There is a seat open on either side of her. There is one seat in front of her, and then there's one seat directly behind her that's open.
I'll probably be taking the seat behind her.
I guess I'll go to one side of Sephora, I guess leaving the other side for Miriam, so that we're kind of sandwiching.
Sounds like a plan.
Miss Green, Miss Ashton, I don't believe I've had your pleasure.
Right.
Of course I am. Everyone is, in their own way. But your name?
No, that is my name.
I see. I was told the Dark One was Monk, but perhaps the information is not nearly as accurate as I would have liked.
No, Mr. Monk isn't here tonight.
Shame. I'm glad that you've all arrived. I was wondering how long it would take for you all to come around and begin negotiating on how best to use your stock. We, of course, only didn't bother to make an offer due Mr. Darcy's insistence.
He'll just raise an eyebrow and listen for Hestia's response.
Strange of him, but that's fine. We're here for that's a good enough reason, but there are other things. Very pressing things.
Well, would you like to start with business or pleasure?
I'd like to get business.
Miriam will give a little smirk.
First. It makes the pleasure nicer as a nice little bit of dessert or capper to the bitterness of greens occasionally.
I see. Very well. That being the case, I understand that your usual census is in the neighborhood of 200 mature adults on various substances. For that, consistent with them merely donating once a week to start, with a minimum of 200 units per week, I know that I can offer you a competitive rate, but I'm not sure what rate you believe is competitive. Let's start with that. How much would you assume would be fair for 200 units of blood per week?
And a character I'm sure has already had this conversation both with Miriam and in other instances of about how much blood costs. I know she's had it with Lucio in the past.
Yes, she has. Oh, you're asking how much, as a supplier, you're looking to make off of each unit? It would be roughly 700 to 800 for his poor health, average blood. And that's the medical quality that is separated into just the white blood cells and blah, blah, blah. But for whole, uncut, you're talking, as a supplier, anywhere from 800 to 1,000. And then there's the transportation fees that are tacked on and delivery fees that are tacked on. So by the time it makes it to sale, it's anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 that's being charged. Everyone adding their little markup to the value.
Okay. Well, we know what the going rate is, and we know that also there has been some inflation due to demand. But I'm not looking to be a miser or greedy about this whole situation. It's welcome income, obviously. Um, do we want to do flat rate or per piece?
That rate is by far more beneficial to all parties involved. That way we can move up and down based on quality without overburdening either one of us.
Definitely smart to do so. Alright, it's been a weird couple days. She looks kind of towards Miriam because Miriam's she's pretty good with finances, but she knows Miriam's runs a club, so that's probably a little more financially minded than she is. And
Miriam has an accountant.
When math is the dangerous thing in a VTM game.
Right.
Are you having an issue deciding a fair rate? Well,
that's what it
if
is.
I were you, sight unseen, we don't know how poor the quality might be nor how great the quality might be. 150,000 would be a fair going rate per week to start. And as the quality either improves or, unfortunately, which is usually the case, deteriorates, we can adjust downward or up without overburdening the system. It gives you leeway to account for dips and raises in quality while making sure that you have a standard minimum. And this is for 200 standard units per week. Is more than fair. And if the quality is superb and superlative, of course we can adjust upwards 10%, 20%, and downward by the same amount if necessary. As, unfortunately, even at 200 units per week, most places, most suppliers tend to run through their stock in roughly about 60 days. At that rate, most humans simply just get tired. They begin to experience doldrums and drops in various things, and depressions and stressors, and before you know it, the quality has deteriorated to the point where even that is too large of an expectation. Would you perhaps like to, instead of utilizing the full 200 adults at your location, start with a smaller number? Again, we plan on longevity, of course. However, there are so many hiccups along the way that may happen. Your best donor with best quality of blood may grow sick or ill, or have a bender or night out on the town that causes them to become too inebriated to do anything more than pass along the poison directly. Your worst donor may have an upswing in fortune's fate, causing their particular vintage to grow in quality, temporarily, of course. And once we agree to a number, it is a number that will be hit. There is never a reason for a accounting error. And as such, no such accounting errors would be accepted. And again, as this will most assuredly cause some small interpersonal issues between me and my sommelier of Dalton, Mr. Darcy, I would prefer us to have as smooth of a working relationship as possible.
Smaller number might be healthier for them.
Really well. I assume that you have an idea as to the number that might be?
We could go with half on a rotation of every 2 weeks. Meaning 100 this week, 100 the next. Opposite of which donated the time before. Keeping them healthier, perhaps.
Oh, you organize your donors? That is entirely your responsibility. We're looking at just the provided supply. Before the supply, while we could offer assistance, we find that fair trade is never theft, and if we are privy to your particular supply, we have access to your particular supply, it's not beneficial to us to have you involved. Hence the reason why we have our own supply network, our individual independent supply network, specifically for us, that is free of the circulatory system. And what is supplied by the circulatory system and by independent suppliers such as yourself is your purview. The number of supplied units is all that we are concerned with and all that you are paid for. It is a lot, and I completely understand that this is quite a lot of business that needs to be taken care of. As you, the shelter, have for years curtailed the use of your herd for the betterment of other kindred. Years ago, when meeting Mr. Darcy for the first time, it was one of the considerations that were on the table. He promptly and swiftly insisted that your herd was to remain free range. That's the word I believe he tried using. And due to his growth and my reliance on him as of late, we have respected that wish to keep your herd your herd. It is not and has not been an easy thing. When quite a few of other individuals' herds have chosen your location as a safe haven, we've had to forego collection out of respect for Mr. Darcy, of course. And if you are going to enter into our business, it will be a renegotiation of the contract and existing relationship we have with you.
If it would create less problem, in that vein. As I said, this is not particularly why we were here in the first place.
I was under the understanding that would be the only reason why you might be showing up.
No, there's other
Seems as if
reasons.
there are. do in fact tell. Because as of yet, one of this particular information source has not been wrong as of yet. It is a newer source, of course. Only the last 2 years have they entered into the market, but they have been vetted thoroughly by others who are in a similar field. So it's a bit troubling to find that you are the reason why they have been incorrect. So why are you here? Why is the shelter gracing me with their presence?
It seems we have a mutual problem. And would like to team up to handle said mutual problem. So,
it's a bit late, but you're saying... Oh, go on.
Somebody that you don't particularly like has also become a thorn in our side. One hand washes the other. There's that. And there's also the matter of a recent happenstance that would have saw you personally taken out of business had we not acted. There's that.
Enemies are very much part of the business. A little more particular in regards to whom this enemy might be. I can't accurately answer anything.
Well, they stated that their plans were co-signed by the highest of highs in Chicago. But again,
They expressed a dissatisfaction in having a third-party retailer, so to speak.
Concerns about not only the more eclectic members of our society moving in and setting up their base, but having an independent operator such as yourself also in the mix.
So you've heard, I'm taking it on good sources, that Prince Jackson would like to drive me out of business.
Take over, rather.
And in this particular instance, he looks over to Miriam for a yay or nay on this. As far as our information holds, it was the Primogen Council.
Miriam will nod.
Plans which we have greatly delayed.
Are losing members left and right. I believe that it is time for a change. If this is valid, if this is true, it would be very much in line with removing them from office at this point. There is no reason, no provocation that has ever been given to have the Primogen Council upset with my services. Is there any bit of substantiating you might offer in regards to this, as you can understand that a threat to my business is very, very personal?
It was the fact that they couldn't control you. That was the biggest problem, according to them. Or according to the person who was sent to give us the message.
And as for substantiating our claims of both their plans and our actions therein, he looks over to Hestia for approval on this particular piece of dialogue, not continuing until she gives him the yay or nay.
This one has a hesitant about, because it's not what you say, it's what you can prove. So it could either be putting their foot in the bear trap or not. Is there anything I can roll to the politics of this point? What would it gain us to tell her enough of the truth to get her to believe us?
Sure that you are being factual and accurate. Well, charisma plus subterfuge. The strength of your presence, the strength of your personality, your ability to sound and feel convincing.
Oh, is there a way that me and Miriam can assist in this?
You guys gonna co-sign? Both together?
I mean, we've basically been playing Ring Around the Rosie as it applies to the speech at this point.
Right. Miriam will jump in on it.
Okay, who's rolling? Hess?
Well,
You're taking point?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hess is basically the leader in this.
Alright.
I have a pool of 4 without help.
Alright, so that's a pool of 6. Make it happen.
You know, you can always tempt the beast. Nothing wrong with getting a little hungry.
This is all very, very true.
Though, to be fair, I think a pool of 6 should see you through. I look forward to the fruits of your labor.
You can do it!
Hey, hey!
I'm good with that.
And just like that, you've set the average dice roll for every enemy character for the rest of the season. What did I say? You know what would be terrible, Hess? Is if this is one of those situations where we wanted her to beat us just so that she could understand and not be swept under by our weird subtleties.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, wait a minute. If she failed, does she not understand?
Not at all. It's all over her head. No, I'm kidding. In the grand scheme of things, trust is not one thing that is indicative of the Kindred community. You all don't trust yourselves, let alone any others. You all are at once each other's greatest strength and greatest threat to your own individual continued existence. There's nothing that a determined cohesive coterie might not achieve. And at the very same instance, in the very same breath, there is nothing that can be achieved by a non-cohesive, non-determined coterie. You all are each other's greatest strength. You all together operating are stronger than the sum of your parts. You all can move mountains, or you can bury each other under so many other mountains of doubt, inconsistency, dishonesty, and all of the other taboos of truthful, honest social exchange, causing all manner of automatic failures to take place. However, in this instance, the shelter is a cohesive unit. Your goal of proving that you all are trustworthy enough to at least be speaking the truth in this moment rings loud and clear. The natural bullshit radar, the bullshit detector that every kindred has, that certain kindred have in an overabundance, does not detect any lies told just as of yet. The mental squinting of an eye and measuring the tone and tenor of the information provided has come back with truth.
You are not the father.
The Primogen wants to take over my business. And not just my business. As the largest blood czar in the contiguous United States, they would, by extension, control several smaller, lesser markets and would immediately, by extension, control the thirst and hunger of a not considerable amount of kindred. So this is a takeover, a food-based takeover of every region that we affect, every domain that falls under my purview. If they have control over my business, would fall under their sway.
That sounds correct.
Did not want to be in the political end of our existence. It seems as if I must. Do you have a particular primogen that is more for my loss of control than others?
He just, without really being able to stop himself, he cracks the corner of his mouth up into a smirk and just kind of quietly, well, we had one.
Miriam is just going to flick her eyes towards Aaron.
As for the opinion of the rest of the council, we've yet to garner how strongly or weakly they support this plan.
Are you saying that you all killed Rosa? You made her disappear?
No, that's
What?
not the first time. Rosa wasn't. What? No.
She's the only primogen that was missing at the last council meeting. Are you responsible for her disappearance? Do you have her in custody now?
How long ago was the last Primogen meeting?
Clearly longer than 3 days ago. Or last night, rather.
He'll leave the next part of exposition to Hess and let her choose what she wants to say.
The thing is,
Are you saying you have a primogen in custody now? And it wasn't Rosa. you're sure that it wasn't Rosa. So we're gonna be missing another Primogen member?
Gonna nod. Custody, no. Missing, yes.
So it's true. You all have been playing the long game, taking out members of the Primogen, weakening Prince Jackson's control. How long have you all been doing this? Is it the entirety of your operating inside the city?
It's mostly turned out to be as an as-needed situation. Not any particular long-reaching plans, as needed. And this was needed. Because we didn't want to have to be the ones.
You didn't want to assassinate Newberry? To dispatch and destroy Urzuli? You didn't want to be responsible for Khalid's disappearances? Yet you're doing it, which makes no sense. So you all...
We didn't want to have to be the ones that came for you. That's what I was trying to say.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this because there's no way that you all should be able to exist. So you all took out Capone. You all took out Urzuli, Newberry, Mama Walde. You took out Rosa. Oh my God. Oh.
Those are the rumors.
Like, Capone, where?
You're responsible for... Capone was the first Primogen to go missing. And he disappeared around the time you all came into some semblance of notoriety. Are you the reason why Santos is no longer the Scourge?
You're giving us far too much credit. We had nothing to do with that.
And what about the former Venture Primogen, Walter Nash? You helped Ballard get rid of him?
Didn't Nash meet the son with his childer for crimes against the prince?
Yes.
What everyone said, and yet suddenly Ballard is coming into power when he was in disgrace. Walter Nash was the next Primogen, and reportedly the Hounds brought him in for justice, right around the time you all were official Hounds. So you came here to decide on whether you're going to conduct your business for the Primogen and take my business from me by taking my assistance from you.
No.
No. That's what I'm trying
That
to
was
tell
the
you.
case. We wouldn't have just come to talk.
No, what, the entire point of us being here and having this conversation with you is because we didn't want you to go out of business. It's because we didn't want anyone to come down here and try to kill you. Or more specifically, these two didn't. I don't have much in the way of a emotional connection with you. No offense.
Hey. So... as she begins to connect one dot after the next, she was very careful with how she arranged the names that she listed, all of the Primogen, and she was very attentive to what you all denied and what you all denied more vociferously. And the fact that you implanted one of your members on her team, with him working his way up to being significantly positioned to be all but her heir apparent. Politics is the name of the game. And while for most people, politics has a dirty connotation, politics itself is simply the study and application of the uses of social power. It's a game. It's a game that changes the future of civilizations. It changes tomorrow's legacy of today. But in and of itself, like every other tool, isn't particularly nefarious. It can be used towards nefarious ends, and often is. Because at the end of the day, the old axiom, that old chestnut of power corrupting absolutely, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's equal to power corrupting being a common understood end. There's one not quite so commonly known, but spread nearly as far. If you want to test a person, if you want to prove a person, good or ill, don't grant them adversity, grant them power, and they will become more of who they are. And Sephora, who has not been without power, who has steadily built her position, changed the way that the blood trade is carried out in the entirety of the Chicagoland area, who has strengthened her position and built a castle from which she could wage a very long war if pushed. She understands the application of power. She understands the use for subtlety. It's the reason why she pushed you all for more definitive answers. And the reason why she toyed with you all, mixing purposeful lie with accidental truth. She was hoping you all would, as you've done slightly, reveal more truth than you intended. She sits, soaking that knowledge in, looking from one to the next of you all. Closes. She inhales deeply, taking a moment, looking towards the screen, and then turns to Hestia. It is 37 after the hour. Let's come back at 47 now.
Ah, you fuck. Ah, you fuck.
Sounds good.
Sorry it took so long. This is a small little aside. How are we doing otherwise?
Oh, we're doing good, doing good. I don't know, but trying to get us to admit which skeletons in our closet we put there was not it. Yeah, at like in the middle of that, I was tempted to jump in and just be like, at this point in our career, it doesn't matter what we did, what we didn't do. Everybody's gonna say what they're gonna say, and we're guilty of all of it.
That's why Miriam went simple. That's the rumor.
Well,
It very much does become, whether we did it or not, we're going to get blamed for it. So,
Oh, those terrible people over in the shelter. They killed like 37 kindred down there. I don't know why they drew Sabbat symbols on the wall, but, you know, they're crazy.
well, they are. As far as anyone is aware, when the Council Wars and the War of the Blood Red Moon and all of the sect wars of the mid-late 90s and early 2000s finally settled, when Peterson had arisen as the heir apparent to his sire Loden, and so many other kindred were being disappeared before Jackson outfoxed and outmaneuvered him to claim the proxies over the city. Primogen didn't disappear. Powerful kindred didn't disappear any longer. All of the bloodshed of the past was in the past. It was a renewed peace. Because what most people don't give Loden credit for is, unlike 99 of the princes, barons, haters across the nation, he has the longest peaceful reign out of everyone. If not for the lupines and the sect wars exploding, it is believed that Loden would still be in power. The only force that might have unseated him, the only force that might have altered his legacy, shelter. No other coterie of kindred have survived so many scandals, so many accusations, so many provably questionable actions and activities. No other single kindred, let alone a group of kindred, have outlasted and outrun a blood hunt. No other single or coterie of kindred have been connected with so many other powerful kindred, let alone so many other powerful kindred disappearing, and still remained in a semblance of power and relative freedom. So the questions abound, the myths grow, the legends multiply. Because by simple osmosis of being connected to them, being in the same area code as them, by provably taking pictures on the north side of Chicago and getting away with it, there's some glamour attached. There's some stardust that covers the clothes like tossed off dandruff. The only way to disprove many myths, the many legends, the mountains of gossip would be, in fact, to kill the coterie, to broadcast their failures, their shortcomings, to stand on the truth of their actions in less than favorable situations, to kill the legend and kill the myth, to unbury from the gossip would require killing the shelter in effigy, burdening their souls, putting it all out there, repeated and often enough, but they became more known for their failings and shortcomings. They'd have to character assassinate themselves. While Leonidas, according to myth and legend, only sought to prove that Xerxes was nothing more than a man, not a god, to simply draw blood and prove that there was fallibility in him. The coterie's fallibility has grown into the stuff of legend, has a life of its own almost. That's without them knowing the reality of all of the tense moments, the staring down of death, the willingness to die, the members that they've lost, the loyalty that they've forsaken, and the trust that have been forgotten. The only way is to prove how many times they've come up short. And that's where it gets hectic and where it gets difficult. They have stared down Lupin, sick, old, tired, strung out, outnumbered and outgunned. They have dealt with rogue warlocks, which shouldn't be a possibility even with the falling of the pyramid. They have rubbed shoulders with and come afoul of actual will workers. They have taken out several Primogen and high-ranking, politically powerful kindred. They stood down an army of thin blood. And, most pressingly, throughout all of it, they have faced heartbreak. They have transgressed against their own personal moral taboos, ethics. They have spent nights awash in the stench of their own failures and dreading the next nightfall. They have contemplated and in some cases followed through with making an actual attempt to delete themselves from the census of kindred available in the city. They have watched love die. They have watched friendships end. They have survived through it all, mostly out of spite, a refusal to accept all of the harm that has befallen them, all that their attempts to choose another way have gotten them. Right now, at this very moment, outside of the three present, other members of the shelter who are not presently members of the shelter are in positions to overthrow a criminal organization, to engender the belief in a cult system, are presently hacking into secure systems to find blackmail information against others. Running one of the most usurious corporations in kindred community. And, most importantly, though lessly thought of, mourning the loss of the one person they loved, their child, Sebastian, and sitting in the middle of all of that wrong. No one knows the truth except for the coterie. No one knows the truth except for the shelter. And so, it was last night. That was 3 days from them actually following through on purposefully ending the existence and immortality of another member of the Primogen. Tonight, however, they're in Miriam's venue. I guess saying nightclub or bar only encapsulates a very small portion of what the building is. It's a venue. It is a enterprise. Sephoa's words are still echoing around the edges. Sephoa's understanding of what she eked from their conversations is still sitting there, echoing in the ether. And they've reunited to hash out things that they didn't talk about or didn't communicate. And even as it was easier, even as it called to them on an emotional level, they chose not to meet in the morgue of the Haven. They chose to meet someplace where there was life, where there was activity. And in that life and activity, the very truth of it all, it still centers on and around blood, the very important go juice of life. Our quiet corners and other ways that it's being obtained, some less savory than others. As they sit and mull over the echoing words and considerations of Sephora, what is it that they're discussing?
Just kind of tossing up and then catching in a self-soothing manner. One of his revolver rounds just... So, I believe it's about time that we settle exactly how it is we're gonna handle these crazy religious people, eh? I know some of us have our leanings. He nods towards Miriam. But I would like us to have something of a conjoined and cooperative plan before we move. As it seems, doing things with minimal discussion tends to lead to problems.
Miriam will chuckle slightly and gesture towards the mural on the floor they're on. Probably the Dog Rose Lounge, the VIP area, because there's a little more privacy there. I do have some flocking here. Particular naming schemes. We'll do that.
Do you care whether or not their organization holds up?
I was never quite the religious sort. Does come in useful, though.
Alright. Hess, your thoughts on the matter?
Well, the only reason we've continued with this whole situation, because I could give a fuck less really what they do one way or the other than they're attempting to take out or lure in people that I know. And it's also tied loosely into something that shouldn't even exist, but thanks to one of the original Coterie members, still does. We were doing a favor loosely for Damien. And that's the only reason I'm willing to continue, because we owe him. At least that.
And I think after recent events, keeping our names on his good side is probably best.
Bingo. So, due to that, if we need to whittle these cults down to near nothing, or entirely rid ourselves of them, that's what we need to do. My thing is, they're currently keeping Stryker from being the only party capital of the whole entire of Chicago. Maybe save for Miriam, because Miriam's doing her own competing with him, but the problem with that is Stryker has the backing of the Toreador. and we only just don't piss off the Toreador Primogen, because I know she doesn't particularly like us very much, even though her adopted child was one of us.
Well, if we can get Safo fully and properly on our side, can't they put in a word with the Toreador for, he gestures towards Miriam, her to take a similar place in their weird party structure? As far as I'm aware, she's pretty influential.
I don't think it's really the fact that they're backing him. It's the fact that he's one of them. Therefore, they kind of have to back him, whether they like him or not. And he's the one that's jealous of anybody else being able to throw his parties in his style. So it's toddler behavior backed by the adults.
Okay, then we just need to get him to shit the bed so hard no one gives him the time of day. And I say that expressly because I know that we want less than bloody solutions to our problems into the future.
Ideally. Well, some blood is good. Just downstairs, after all. But, that said, this is more of a siphon. There, as far as I can tell, the two branches are more extreme. The Hellenites more so.
Well, in dealing with them, we also need to deal with Deltones. Far as I'm seeing the things, they're pretty much wrapped up right beside each other. Any thoughts? Any inspiration?
Well, I know we don't. Well, no, I don't care about him. I know he could be a potential problem later, but Bill did have some points about the fact that he has done favors to keep the shelter off the radar. Or not, but
Deltones or Bill?
Bill. But I'm thinking point Bill at Deltonas, possibly. The other...
Are you sure that's how you want to do that?
No, I'm not at all sure about any fucking thing lately. But looping back to the problem of the Toreador or not backing Stryker. The problem is any Toreador we either had in the coterie or who has sided with us in any particular strong manner is dead now or doesn't exist anymore. So
They're
it's
saying
not,
you've got no hooks into the Toreador clan.
no, the thing is, so long as anybody that seems to take our side makes an enemy of themselves, nobody's going to take our side.
Well, then it seems like we need an image makeover.
I
tried
don't
that.
think recent events are going to help that. And as Hess said, y'all tried that.
For 2 years, we played nice. We played by their rules. We didn't fucking make anybody disappear. We were perfect model kindred fucking citizens for 2 years. And where the fuck did it get us?
And that you can point a finger at Damien. He is the one who called this favor in.
Honestly, I'm not up for pointing fingers at Damien for just about anything right now. Given that he's pretty much the only reason why one of your guys' friends is still alive right now.
The thing is,
Be that as it may, recent events wouldn't have occurred
yes.
the way they have.
Let's talk about that. You and I have been through hell, literally and figuratively, since we've known each other. And me even before then. I don't expect us to all feel the same way. I understand there are things you don't particularly like. Shit, not everybody likes Brussels sprouts. That's fine. But if I make a fucking play and a plan, either go with it or get the fuck out of the way of it. Because us looking like we don't all have the same goal in mind is going to be a way for them to try to put a crowbar between us, pry us the fuck apart, and take us down. We have to have a united front. 2 of us were on board with the plan. The other one, I don't know what the fuck he was doing with his thumb up his ass, but Damien co-signed it. So that was majority of the people in the room were on board with what happened. You were the only one who actively moved to stop it. I get it. You don't like violence. But sometimes violence is very fucking necessary. When you're being shot at, you can duck, that's fine. But sometimes you gotta shoot back. And we had to shoot back. We were being actively fucking threatened. Even Damien saw that, which is why he okayed loosely what we did. He knew what was coming. So for you to try to get yourself killed by stepping in the fucking way, great, cool, but it made us look fucking idiotic. Because now, in Damien's head, we're not a unit. There's dissension in the ranks. So again, I get it, you don't like violence, that's cool. I'm not trying to put a bat in your hand. But if majority are going with one direction, stop pulling against the other one. This ain't a tug of war. That's all I want. Ideas noted. Problem with that course of action noted. But if we had let him walk out of that room, we would be piñatas and scapegoats forever. And that's all there was to it.
Not to mention, if you'd successfully taken my bullet for him, I'd be worse than dead right now. I think we'd all be worse than dead right now.
Because he would have immediately ran with that and turned everybody that's not already against us. We might have well as walked in the fucking sun to our goddamn selves. That's why I said he was a threat. We neutralized it, that's all there is.
Are you all familiar with Northeast Russians, ethnically? what most people fail to realize is that Russia is part of the Asian continent. In fact, it is the entire north of the Asian continent, the entire northeast of the Asian continent. One of its many ethnogroups, one of its many ethnicities, is quantifiably Asian in everything except for a uniformed, stereotypical Asian look. The North Asians, as the Russians are, and all of their territories, Kirkuks, Yakuts, and several other north-flung domains and countries, are definitively Asian in appearance in one facet or another, be that the lack of eyelid folds or the epicantic fold or the slightly rounder faced build and body to tanner, always darker of hair and what have you. The reason why that's of any remote consideration is that most people don't realize that Miss Harvey Staboli is actually genetically Asian. Her dark midnight raven hair and often fairly hot fashion detract from the stereotypical believed Asian aesthetic. She's not as tan as some. She's not as clearly Vietnamese, Singaporean, Chinese, Japanese, or even Indian in appearance. Yet those familiar with the far-flung North Asian portion of the continent, the Yakuts, the Russian, would recognize her for what she is. Most Americans have no sense or understanding, so they just chalk her up to a relatively attractive, dark-haired woman. And as she enters, her box stole draped across her shoulders, her cigarette holder, but no cigarette, of course. She looks left and right and takes in the environment and makes a beeline towards your table.
He's kind of seeing her approach. Aaron will catch his bullet for the last time and lean back to see what exactly this is going to turn into. May we help you?
Why, yes, you can. I've looked high and low and lower still, and I've reached out through all of my sources, and I can't seem to find somebody. And I heard, I was told that y'all will be able to do it for me.
Do what?
Find somebody. Yes,
Yes.
we taking contracts.
Well, not contracts that most would ever accept, save that I am phenomenally wealthy and would be your largest fans. Not that you all don't have your own fans. I've heard so much about you all. And despite all of the rumors, I believe that you are the persons connected to the persons that I personally would like you all to be. Not the monsters that I've heard you all be called. The shelter are really the definition of the monsters of the Midway. They are horrible killers. They are assassins. And other less bright things. But I believe that you all are, in fact, who I may have a need of. Because, well, in every darkness, there's some light. In every light, there is some darkness. believe that you all may be. Hope that you all may be. Now, you all are free, of course, to tell me that I am wrong or mistaken, that I have not heard nor seen nor witnessed what it is that I have heard and seen and witnessed. And, well, I need your help. Would you all be willing to help?
Take a seat. We'll hear you out. Whether or not we'll do the job, that's up to her.
Trent is just entirely confused by this whole situation, but she's glad to have a break in from the tension that was the conversation before that. So she just kind of nods.
She just gonna what?
Kind of nods her head, and then
Ah.
motions to it.
I should start at the beginning. Do you think that would help? Do you think that would sway you all to know how I have arrived here at this decision?
Couldn't hurt. You have the floor.
Oh no, I don't want it. Can I set it down or give it to somebody else instead? I just need a little box to stand on if I need to step on stage. I don't prefer to be on stage in front of anyone, but for you all, I will make an exception.
Figure of speech, my dear.
It's not very attractive. That needs work and exercise. Just exercise help builds the back and the constitution. Of course, we have come a very long way since that has mattered. I understand you can buy a particular physique that you like these days. My
The beginning.
my family settled in to Padua, and you all are familiar what Padua is. It is a city, and it is a Catholic city, and in that magic place where religion was real, not just observed, but it lived and breathed with the people. The war had just ended, and we, of course, were poorer than we knew and richer than we had any understanding of in those days. The sun was always shining bright, and even on rainy days, it was not nearly as gloomy nor dark as everything that has come since. There was this lovely young lad who I had the strangest feelings about. He was always noticing my raven, wavy hair. He was always chasing after my feelings and attempting to woo me. However, in all of those instances of his efforts to woo me, I understood that someone as handsome and available as he made himself seem, with nothing but the highest of heights to climb, was already clearly involved. I saw the signs, and while he never wore a ring, there's a difference between a person who is involved with another and a person who is 100% single. There are certain things that a single person would do. It's hard to put your finger on, but you feel it in your core. You feel it in your gut. The way that a person takes care of themselves when they are only looking out for their own interests versus the care and attention someone who is in a loving relationship might do. It's a truism my mother always told me that when you are in a relationship with your equal, your match, your other half, while everyone else believes that it is in fact always a partnership of equal measure, It is always 50-50. But that is a lot. Some days, one partner has to be 100%. Some days, the partner is only 5. And you never know from the outside when those days are present or absent. So from the outside, we always assume, we have this illusion in our head that a relationship is 100% parity at all times and balance, so that 50 equals 50. That's not the case. That has never been the case, and I believe my mother like I believe no other. A relationship is about giving your personal all to it if you are actually there. Sometimes we exist in places where we are not, either physically, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally present. We are there because it is easier to tolerate the existence of another than have to fight for what we actually believe in than it is to communicate what we actually believe in. Sometimes it's easier just to float along the surface like a leaf, knocked from a tree, hundreds of thousands of miles, and finding yourself in the center of the ocean and just keep floating along. There's a moment that you begin pedaling against the waves, the moment you begin fighting nature, the moment you splash, it's the moment you attract the attention of bigger monsters, bigger things out there in the dark. Anyway, I knew he was involved. Was involved as well, though I wasn't involved with someone who was ambulatory. Again, this was just after the war. The doctor that found himself in love with me and while maintaining other relationships didn't care to notice, didn't care to perceive that I was thoroughly involved, and my heart was sworn to one of our patients. I didn't know how to deal with the stress, and my soul's darkness leaked out into my blood, leaked out into my body. I put on a few pounds. I've tried to lose it since, but unfortunately it refused to go anywhere for very long.
Are you two just enjoying the story?
You
Okay,
all said
thanks.
so. It started to begin. You
He's,
did
he's just looking at
beginning.
he's
It
just
is
looking at
delightful.
Hestia and Miriam like, come on, guys.
Miriam is listening quite intently.
You all did say start at the beginning, so that's where I was going. My first death, the first time that I closed my eyes with the idea of them never opening again.
No, and I'd like to say sorry, but I believe this is just a misinterpretation. I meant,
Important context.
yeah, beginning as it applies to the individual that you were looking for us to find.
Oh, yes. Yes, that means moving ahead several, more than handfuls of decades closer to now. The voices that I have heard since the death of my love, the death of the one person that I was sure that I would spend the entirety of my existence with, the person that I understood on a way, in a level, on a way that I have never understood anything else, even though I understand most things. Since their passing, since their death, and which led to my death, I have never been alone in my own head. And the thing that troubles me most is the fact that I can't control the volume. Now, if I could just have the remote control to control the volume, I don't need to turn it off. I've grown accustomed to it being there, always whispering, always yelling, always screaming when I least needed to scream. And some days, of course, it's louder than others. But we don't need to paint that. We don't need to tell you all of that. You don't want me to discuss all of that over the years, learning to adjust to it, and what brought me here to Chicago.
No.
Very well. I will jump to something a little more present. I have hopped around the world and the country. And when I first settled here in Chicago, under the reign of Prince Jackson, here in the capital of our nation, all was not right with the world. There was a dark spirit, a force given flesh that I am so thankful that the voices told me to stay away from. And then everyone connected with it. And it was as I stood in the lobby of the Imperial Party, the inaugural party, where that lovely man, Brett Stryker, made his case for being the unifying force for the Imperial Society. Now, they weren't a society at the time, but I knew that when you all helped the party to not fail, when you all put your hands and your fame on Newberry, it was as if I was struck by lightning. For the first time being in his presence, for the first time ever being close enough to set my eyes on all of that lovely blonde hair, that tall, thin frame, wiry and filled with the evil of generations that only someone like him might be able to manifest. I felt safe knowing you all were present. I knew that so long as you all existed, so long as you all stayed as close to living as we are, that I could remain safe. I could go without being noticed. You all provided a shield from which I did not have to worry. You all were face down, redwoods, and all manner of trees. You all would find the seed of love and carve it from the heart pages of the city. You all would rescue the primogen in the same measure to which you all threaten their existences. And I felt safe. But it's all because of you all. And so I was able to listen to the voices. I was able to intuit what they were saying without being accosted by them. I was able to... And she looks at her purse, opens it up, and takes out a journal. It's about 3 inches thick. And it's legal ledger-sized paper. The sheets inside lined in red and blue. And instead of a visible language, it's not Cyrillic, it is not or Latin-based. It is hatch marks in various patterns over and over. Small little symbols that mean nothing to you all upon looking at it. She flips through as if she's looking for a particular page, as if she could read those things, hatch marks and semicircles and the swirls and the loops that means nothing. It's not even Morse code. It's not Braille. It is not Catalan. It is nothing that you've all had the opportunity of seeing Core. But she's glimpsing at pages and turning and turning and turning. So we are past this point. You all would introduce to Francisco. You all know Newberry. Here we are. So because I was able to listen to the voices, because I was able to intuit what they meant as well as what they said and what they are constantly saying, I was able to catalog some of what they told me. So I need you all to find for me, for us, for the city. I need you all to find Incline's second personality. I know you all know where he is. I know you all are well aware where he is hiding from the Primogen, where he has traveled to. Because I do not want to have to face Bronwyn. I do not want to be the only notable member in the city of my clan, of my blood. I do not want the eventual return of Michael from Gary. Because his silence is a bruise. There's a darker thing in him than was ever in Newberry. And once Maxwell assumes full control and begins launching his attacks directly against the city that he claims to love in an effort of lowering the social property value to the point where he could purchase it for pennies under the dollar. There's a larger war coming, and it's being carved up by the one sleeping Imogen from Milwaukee. It is being carved up by ghosts of the prince's past. It is being carved up by shadows with crowns. And it can be stopped. It can be put to an end. You finally separate and carve Helen and Menelise out of the city and all of their pawns. It could be stopped and find our Imogen's second personality. They already active can stop the apocalypse that I see coming. The end of days that are right around the corner.
Well, we'll keep that in mind and keep our ears open.
Does
Though
the
I've
second
always-
personality have a name?
I wish I knew. There's so many names floating out there. You know, Toners, Michael, Alicia. There's too many names floating just there and connected with this second personality. If I knew a clearer way of knowing what that means, I wouldn't. I'm stuck on Evelyn Stevens. I don't know what that has to do with anything just yet. The voices have not managed to connect those dots for me, because eventually they always connect the dots. I don't have to guess. But in this regard, I want us to get ahead of whoever Miss D'Amato is. I want us to get ahead of whatever Alicia plans for us. I want us to not have to worry about Juan Quintero. I want us to not have to worry about Danov's return, nor deal with Hugo. Resurgent Hugo, who is working on his third life, escaping final death despite how The hater laid him low. It is too much. And most importantly, if you all do not find the second personality for our Imogen, I will have to assume the seat, and no other Malkavian in the city cannot tolerate in my presence. They are all bent, have been nearly broken by Newberry's touch. The madness in him was a virulent thing, like a knife of a sky filled with Bruce Wayne upon the wing, without the man attached. You all decide the future. Your past has given you all strength, and I need that strength. The city needs that strength. Or something like that, I believe.
Ash is absolutely dumbfounded. Like, she's literally sitting there, jaw dropped, staring at this woman because so much of it made sense, but at the same time, none of it made sense.
Kind of seeing her rock expression just continues with what he was going to say earlier. Yeah, like I was saying, we're going to keep our ears open, see what we hear, and try and get a hold of this person for you.
Not for me, for the city.
Well,
There are too many conspiracies. There is a place where madness and rats converge in an effort to stop the flyer from seizing power. But they're already too late because no one's doing or stopping Helen and Menelie's spores from continuing to propagate through the city. Both of them are gone. Both of them are dead. They are not what they once were, nor in the same places to actually affect now. Yet they are being used by the same hand to achieve a goal that will see the end of the city. First, you take down the emperor, the czar, the king, the prince, not our prince, but the ruling royalty. Next, you burn all the flowers. And then finally, when the flowers are gone, and all of their meaning with them, the hand guiding Helen and Menelise to step forward and claim control and become the last prince of Chicago.
oh, it's always fun dealing with you guys. Everything sounds like an incredibly ominous Brothers Grimm tale.
They stole all of their stories from indigenous people. You know that.
Yeah. It's like what Disney does with other cultures.
Yes. What do you think they got the idea from?
Showing off. I just think it's really funny that they copyright stuff that they didn't come up with. Either way, thanks for the warning. Yes.
Don't think nothing of it. I'll leave y'all alone now.
Yeah. And you enjoy your night. what's left of it. Now, yes, I caught most of that, and I think the general idea is not pretty.
When is it ever?
I'm guessing that disease those kids let out was a lot worse than we thought.
Poisonous?
I
What?
don't think that was the only disease that she was talking about. When she mentioned Newberry being virulent, he was controlling the Malkavians in a strange way and using them to do terrible things. And they didn't
Do you think
realized or couldn't control what they realized. Clyde was fairly messed up by everything that Newberry did. He
is
thought,
everything in a similar situation is going on here?
well, that's what she's mentioning. She's fine with the fact that Newberry is gone because that took care of the virulence of Newberry, but at the same time, this new Primogen and his multiple personalities were supposed to be a better choice as long as the right personality was running things. But that wasn't a guarantee. So now we have to stop Deltones. It sounds like Deltones is trying to use backroom methods to take out the Blood Tsar. He's probably the one that put stuff in Evan's ear and the Primogen Council's ear about getting rid of Sephoa. Then, with him being in charge and the most powerful Toreador, he gets rid of the roses or burns down the roses and then becomes just under Prince levels of power. At least that's what I'm understanding from this. I could be entirely wrong, but that's what I was getting. That Deltonis is behind a lot of the problems we're having right now. And he's got his hands in everything.
So we're back to square one. Stop the cult, stop Deltona.
Yeah, that's what's going to have to happen. And loosely tied to that somewhere in there, I'm pretty sure somebody that we were supposed to keep from getting into power before, we missed our window on, and they might have stepped into power.
Bruja situation?
I think so. Either them or the Gangrel, one of the two.
Yeah, the Gangrel was the most recent one. Still. Not a fan of that bald fucker. Well.
There's another consideration. Though Flowers is probably the Toreador. The Bahari tend to refer to their followers as their gardens. There's a reason why every floor has a flower theme.
Could it be a little
so
like
either they're
both?
going to purge.
What was that, Hess?
Could it be that it's a little of both? It's that overlap between the Bahari's interests in having their garden being tended by the Toreador. The Toreador attempting to take over where the Bahari left, while not calling themselves as such. So there's the overlap.
You mean taking a play from my book?
Basically. Striker is a what? Toreador. And he's attempting to bolster his Elysian parties, which are the new version of what the Bahari held before that. Thereby kind of stepping into the supposedly empty hole that the Bahari left behind. Again, exactly like what you're doing. But sanctioned under the guise of, well, I'm a law-abiding Camarilla. You can control what I'm doing. Wink, wink.
My blood tax. And then the other consideration. Person we could have kept out of power. More recent, well, a couple years ago at this point now, but our dear darling Sophia.
I will admit, she just really out-fucking maneuvered us, and I hate the fact that that happened. But that's not who I was meaning when we said we should have kept them out of power. There was somebody else. Also her, but mostly somebody else.
I'm just gonna repeat what I've been saying for the past couple of weeks since I've gotten to really personally know all of you. Why is it that you have so many living enemies?
Because Miriam doesn't like violence.
And just pinches the bridge of his nose. Alright, well, regardless, we're gonna have to deal with all of them in whatever way we deem acceptable. Priorities. What do we handle first? Okay, I'll go. If Klein's personality had something that could help assuage the situation and avoid it, other than just their own presence, then maybe I can find it.
Your best bet would be Lolly. Possibly Damien.
I'm pretty sure you'd be the best one to talk to Lolly. You two being so similar. I think if a walking catastrophe approached them, it might not turn out so well.
All depends on what her visions... visions? Yeah. Good enough. Told her.
Alright, well, there's that one approach. And if that gets us nothing, I can go through... I can find and try and sift through their own notes, if they kept any. Let's see if there's any information they left behind that might be helpful. As for the two cults, what are we doing?
Well, continuing to siphon the I can probably figure out where they're meeting. Do you have Simone's old notebooks that would tell us who is a part of their network?
Looks to has.
Yeah, I still have Simone's notebooks. The thing was, he kept more notes, I think, on his phone, but I have been looking through his notebook. It's not been pleasant, but it's not a big deal. I can try to find the most poignant one and get that written down in shorthand for you so that it's more digestible. The thing is, I think Gid is more tied into this than we think. It's just that the single him feeding from one person can only be done so often to keep him ghoul. But the amount of knowledge he has and the amount of places he can get into, it feels like maybe he has more than one food source or tie source. Patron. That's what it's fucking called. I think that's what I'm getting at there. I think we need to look into him more because who else is feeding him? Who else has sway over him enough for us to not... They knew he was going to be a threat to us. They knew sending him in was going to be dangling bait. And if we took the bait, then we were fucked. Because then now you've got however many people wanting a pound of flesh back for the pound of flesh we took. But we
So what, you want to follow the line up to the fisherman?
Basically. I think we need to look into who's fishermen. Who's got their pole in the water. So, we need to... I know, so many fucking innuendos. But... I think we were close.
Are you sure you don't want to go upstairs?
Absolutely sure. I think if things happened tonight, people would not enjoy them unless they were into pain. So I'm not going to go there tonight. Either way, yes. We need to look into Gid more. There's got to be other ties there that we slightly missed or something. I feel like he can lead us back to Deltonis because Deltonis is also the biggest fucking puppet master behind most of this shit.
Let me ask you this. If you think Deltones is his other food source, and we're trying to prove that, what does proving that do for us?
It allows
It gives us a target.
Exactly. It allows us to cut the lines without missing any. We don't want to trigger any hidden traps. Basically.
Okay. Deltonis is already our target, right?
One of them.
He's one of them.
Okay. And the point of following this up, figuring out that it's Deltonis, is just to make sure that there's not another face out there trying to fuck with us, right?
Yes, because the amount of planning and chess-like moves this has all taken is fucking chaotic, but Malkavian at the same time. There's a reason... Or Machiavellian, sorry. I think I had a fucking Freudian slip, but you know what I mean. The planning is both genius and madness.
Yeah, I get you. Ah, sounds like I'm gonna have a lot of fucking and footwork to do.
Hmm. So did anybody else like slightly
Okay, so we.
hit themselves when she said that they needed to find Evan?
The second personality?
Not really, no.
Okay, just me then.
I mean, she did specify his second personality.
Look, I don't exactly know how they work, but one dead is one dead.
What's dead doesn't necessarily stay dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Does anyone have Sense the Unseen currently active?
Not active, no.
Oh,
But we
Okay, just checking. Just kidding. All jokes aside, would you be so kind to go ahead and roll your resolve plus auspics? And while you roll that, let's put something on the forward portion of everyone's thoughts. The easiest way to hide something is right in front of everyone's nose. The easiest way to really effectively camouflage anything is when there's a lot of something there to begin with. Most people always look past how easy that is. Most people always ignore that in this modern era of everything being multitask, that it's not really a multiple task. It's like the movie magic for the huge fight scenes. There's never anything more than one fight actually happening at a time. There's always a reason why the background stuntmen can't all just get together and kick the shit out of the Power Rangers as they're doing their super transformation into their Zords. Why would you wait for that power to come into being? The best way to hide is right in front of everyone's nose. What the coterie is aware of, just putting it out there factually, is all of their loose threads, all of their maneuvering, all of their live and let live is coming home to roost like the angriest of chickens. And yet, back to a moment of enlightenment from their most ardent and strident visible enemy, Don Castiglione, told them directly of what was required. You don't get it. I wanted you dead. That's easy enough to do. I need you in pain. I need you to understand that the only salvation for you when you're drowning, when you're overwhelmed, is to swim down. I want you all to understand and willingly do anything you can to avoid the pain, including willingly separating yourselves from the powerhouse that is that building. The only way that you're ever going to understand that, the only way that this works, for you to do it willingly. But I got to get you there. I got to ratchet up things high enough where you understand you can't get over, you can't get under, you can't get to the left or to the right. You have to go true. And in going true, the hell that I'm going to send you to when it's over will be your reward. So no, I ain't trying to kill you. Killing you ain't even an option. However, you're gonna wish I had. Because I don't stop. Ever. And it was said with such braggadocio. It was said with such affirmative belief. It was said as if it was already in motion and no one would be able to stop it. Unlike comic books and movies, sitcoms and books, the real evil bad guys in the world don't tell you what's happening until it's already done. If only the coterie knew someone who was willing to capitalize on what was already in motion, already in play, to perfectly outmaneuver you all. Luckily, the coterie doesn't know anyone like that.
Wait a fucking second. He said outmaneuver. I heard those words. I heard those words earlier. Goddamn Sophia.
Right.
I was about to say, wait a minute. Don
Wait.
Castiglione from outside the grave?
Just a fucking moment. Gid, you absolute fucking Jackson Pollock painting you, finding yourself all over the Miro board. What are you doing over there, you scamp?
Why, whatever do you mean? And as certain truisms and certain facts present themselves or swim up from the depths of collective and individual memory, as certain inalienable facts present themselves as resolute. Thank you all for a lovely episode. I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Alright, so I think we're very quickly learning that we just need to just embrace. Don't try and change the shelter's reputation. Embrace it.